The studio lights blazed down on the set of The View, where the audience buzzed with anticipation as the hosts took their seats for another lively episode filled with hot topics and celebrity guests. Joy Behar, known for her sharp tongue and unfiltered opinions, adjusted her microphone with a confident smirk, ready to dive into the day's discussions on politics, entertainment, and everything in between. Whoopi Goldberg moderated with her usual calm demeanor, while the other co-hosts chatted animatedly among themselves. Suddenly, the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, introducing the special guest, Eddie Murphy, the legendary comedian and actor whose career spanned decades of blockbuster hits and iconic stand-up routines. The crowd erupted in applause as Eddie strode onto the stage, dressed in a sleek black suit, flashing his trademark grin that could light up any room. He shook hands with the hosts, exchanging pleasantries, but there was an undercurrent of tension in the air, especially from Joy, who had previously made controversial remarks about Eddie's recent projects in interviews. As the segment began, Whoopi steered the conversation toward Eddie's latest film, praising his return to form, but Joy interjected almost immediately, her voice cutting through like a knife. "Eddie, I've got to say, your comedy these days feels a bit outdated. Don't you think it's time to evolve with the times?" she quipped, eliciting a mix of gasps and laughs from the audience. Eddie leaned back in his chair, his expression shifting from amusement to something more serious, as he replied smoothly, "Joy, I've been in this game longer than some of these trends have been around, but I appreciate the feedback." The exchange escalated quickly, with Joy pressing on about political correctness and comedy, accusing Eddie of not being sensitive enough to modern audiences. Eddie listened patiently at first, nodding along, but as Joy's comments grew more pointed, labeling him as out of touch and even implying his humor bordered on bullying, the comedian's eyes narrowed. The other hosts tried to defuse the situation, but Joy was on a roll, her passion for debate turning the interview into a confrontation. Eddie finally interrupted, his voice steady but firm. "Hold on, Joy, I came here to talk about my work, not to be lectured." The audience murmured, sensing the shift, as Joy fired back, "Well, if you can't handle the heat." But Eddie wasn't backing down. He straightened up, looking directly at her. "You know, Joy, I don't do well with bullies," he said, his words hanging in the air like a punchline that wasn't meant to be funny. The studio fell silent for a moment, the weight of the statement sinking in. As Joy's face registered surprise, her usual quick wit momentarily stalled. Whoopi jumped in to steer things back, but the moment had already captured everyone's attention, with cameras zooming in on the exchanged glances. Eddie continued, explaining how his comedy was rooted in truth and observation, not malice, and how he had faced real bullies in his life, from schoolyards to Hollywood boardrooms. Joy attempted to recover, laughing it off as just spirited discussion, but Eddie pressed on, sharing anecdotes from his early days in stand-up, where he learned to stand his ground against hecklers and critics alike. The conversation deepened, touching on themes of resilience and authenticity in entertainment, with Eddie masterfully turning the tables by asking Joy about her own experiences with criticism. She responded defensively at first, but as Eddie shared vulnerable stories from his career lows, the tone softened, revealing a mutual respect beneath the surface banter. The audience applauded sporadically, appreciating the raw honesty unfolding live on air. By the end of this initial segment, what started as a potential clash had evolved into a thought-provoking dialogue, with Eddie's line about bullies becoming the viral moment everyone would talk about later. The hosts wrapped up for a commercial break, but the energy lingered, promising more fireworks ahead in the show. Coming back from the break, the atmosphere on the View set was electric, with the audience still whispering about Eddie Murphy's pointed remark to Joy Behar. Whoopi Goldberg recapped the moment lightly, trying to keep things moving. As the discussion shifted to current events and celebrity news, Eddie sat comfortably, engaging with the other hosts on lighter topics like his family life and upcoming projects. But Joy couldn't resist circling back to their earlier exchange. "Eddie, about that bully comment, did you really think I'm bullying you here?" she asked, her tone a mix of curiosity and defensiveness, prompting a chuckle from the crowd. Eddie smiled, ever the professional, and replied, "Joy, bullying comes in many forms. Sometimes it's just someone trying to dominate the conversation without listening." He elaborated on how, in his view, true dialogue required mutual respect, drawing parallels to his roles in films where characters stood up to authority figures. Joy nodded, but pushed further, defending her style as passionate journalism, citing examples from past episodes where her directness led to memorable moments. The back and forth continued, with Eddie sharing stories from his Saturday Night Live days, where he dealt with network executives who tried to censor his sketches, teaching him to fight back with wit rather than anger. "I've silenced more rooms with a joke than with a shout," he quipped, earning laughs all around. As the segment progressed, the other co-hosts chimed in, sharing their own encounters with bullying in the industry, turning the discussion into a broader panel on empowerment and standing up for oneself. Eddie emphasized the importance of not letting others define your narrative, especially in a media landscape quick to label and cancel. Joy, to her credit, listened more intently this time, occasionally interjecting with agreements rather than rebuttals. The audience engaged too, with some shouting encouragement, making the live show feel interactive and alive. Eddie then pivoted to lighter fare, impersonating famous figures to illustrate his points, his comedic timing impeccable in diffusing any remaining tension. Joy even joined in, attempting her own impressions, which led to genuine laughter shared between them. This unexpected camaraderie highlighted how confrontations could lead to understanding, with Eddie's initial silence of Joy not through aggression but through poised responses. As the talk delved deeper into personal growth, Eddie opened up about mentoring young comedians, advising them on handling critics like Joy, who he now playfully called the Queen of Tough Questions. She took it in stride, admitting that her approach stemmed from her own battles in a male-dominated field. The segment flowed seamlessly, blending serious insights with humor, keeping viewers hooked. By the time another break approached, the viral potential of the episode was clear, with social media likely already ablaze with clips of Eddie's line. The hosts thanked Eddie for his candor, and he responded graciously, hinting at more revelations to come in the final parts of the show. As the third segment kicked off on The View, the focus turned to audience questions, with fans eager to probe Eddie Murphy about his career and that now infamous exchange with Joy Behar. The first question came from a young woman in the front row, asking how Eddie handles negativity in the spotlight. He leaned forward, engaging directly. "You gotta have thick skin, but also know when to speak up like I did earlier." Joy rolled her eyes playfully, but Eddie continued, "Seriously, Joy, your questions make us all better. It's just about balance." This olive branch softened Joy, who admitted, "Okay, Eddie, point taken, maybe I do come on strong sometimes." The audience cheered, sensing a resolution. As the conversation expanded to broader themes of media responsibility and celebrity accountability, Eddie shared behind-the-scenes stories from his films, like Coming to America, where he fought for creative control against studio bullies, paralleling it to on-air dynamics. Joy countered with her experiences on the show, where she's often the one pushing boundaries to spark real talk. The other hosts facilitated, adding their perspectives, creating a round-table feel that was both entertaining and enlightening. Eddie then delved into his philosophy on comedy as a tool for social commentary, citing influences like Richard Pryor who silenced doubters through sheer talent. "Bullies thrive on silence, I thrive on making them laugh at themselves," he said, directing a wink at Joy, who laughed along. This led to an impromptu comedy bit where Eddie and Joy role-played a exaggerated debate, with him mimicking her New York accent and her attempting his famous laugh, delighting everyone. The energy was high, with the audience participating through applause and shouts. As questions continued, one fan asked about potential collaborations, to which Eddie joked, "Joy, want to co-host a special? We could call it Silenced No More." She feigned horror but agreed it could be fun, showing their budding on-screen chemistry. The segment explored deeper issues like mental health and entertainment, with Eddie revealing how bullying affected him early on, motivating his success. Joy shared similar vulnerabilities, humanizing her tough exterior. This vulnerability bridged any gaps, turning the show into a platform for empathy. Wrapping up, Whoopi praised the honest exchange, noting how it exemplified why The View thrives on diverse voices. Eddie nodded, emphasizing unity over division, leaving the audience inspired. Returning from yet another commercial, The set of The View hummed with renewed vigor as Eddie Murphy and the hosts dove into pop culture trends, but the undercurrent of their earlier clash with Joy Behar lingered, adding spice to every remark. Joy, ever the provocateur, brought up recent controversies in Hollywood, questioning Eddie's views on cancel culture. "Don't you think some comedians deserve to be called out?" she probed, her eyes sparkling with challenge. Eddie paused thoughtfully before responding, "Absolutely, but calling out isn't the same as bullying. It's about intent." He elaborated with examples from his own life, like navigating racial stereotypes in roles, where he had to silence naysayers by proving his versatility. Joy listened, then shared her advocacy work, explaining how her directness stems from fighting for underrepresented voices. The dialogue matured, with Eddie acknowledging Joy's contributions to women's issues, and her complimenting his trailblazing in comedy. The other co-hosts interjected with anecdotes, enriching the discussion on intersectionality in media. Eddie then lightened the mood with impressions of politicians, tying back to bullying and power structures, which had everyone in stitches. Joy tried to one-up him with her own satire, leading to a hilarious back-and-forth that showcased their complementary styles. Audience members chimed in via social media questions read aloud, one asking if Eddie felt silenced by critics like Joy. He laughed, "Nah, she just keeps me on my toes. Bullies beware." This self-deprecating humor diffused any residual tension, fostering a sense of camaraderie. As the segment progressed, they touched on family values, with Eddie discussing raising his kids away from Hollywood's harsh spotlight, and Joy relating through her own life stories. This personal touch deepened the connection, turning potential adversaries into allies on air. The show's producers likely rejoiced at the ratings boost from this dynamic. Ending on a high note, Eddie teased future projects, inviting Joy to cameo, which she accepted with mock enthusiasm. The break came too soon, leaving viewers eager for more. In the penultimate segment of The View, the conversation with Eddie Murphy took a reflective turn, examining the evolution of comedy in a polarized world, all while Joy Behar's earlier provocation hung like a thread weaving through the talk. Whoopi guided the panel toward discussions on social media's role in amplifying voices and bullies. Eddie opined, "Online, everyone's a critic, but real bullies hide behind screens. Facing them live, like today, is where truth shines." Joy agreed partially, defending robust debate as essential, but conceded that tone matters. They explored historical contexts, with Eddie referencing vaudeville eras where performers silenced hecklers with quick wit. Joy drew parallels to modern talk shows, including her own, as battlegrounds for ideas. The exchange grew philosophical, touching on freedom of speech versus harm, with Eddie stressing empathy and humor. "I don't punch down, I lift up," he said, earning nods from the hosts. To illustrate, he performed a short routine on everyday bullies, like rude drivers or bossy neighbors, incorporating Joy's mannerisms playfully, which she took in good spirits. Laughter filled the studio, bridging any divides. Audience Q&A resumed, with fans praising Eddie's poise, one even calling him a bully slayer. He humbly deflected, crediting life experiences. Joy shared a vulnerable moment about facing backlash for her views, finding common ground with Eddie on resilience. This mutual respect elevated the show, transforming it from confrontation to collaboration. As time wound down, they hyped Eddie's new ventures, with Joy promising to watch and critique kindly. The segment closed with applause, solidifying the episode's memorable impact. Wrapping up the explosive episode of The View, Eddie Murphy and Joy Behar shared final thoughts, reflecting on their spirited exchange that had captivated the audience from start to finish. Eddie reiterated his stance, "Joy, you're no bully, just passionate. But remember, I don't do well with them, so let's keep it real." She smiled, admitting the challenge pushed her to think deeper, thanking him for the lively debate. The hosts recapped highlights, from the initial silence to the laughs, noting how such moments define live TV. Eddie signed off with advice for viewers: stand up to bullies with words, wit, and wisdom. "It's worked for me." Joy added her twist, encouraging bold conversations. The audience rose in a standing ovation as Eddie waved goodbye, the set buzzing with post-show energy. Backstage chatter likely focused on the viral clips already circulating, with Eddie's line destined for memes and headlines. This encounter not only entertained but also inspired, showing how confronting differences can lead to growth. As credits rolled, the episode stood as a testament to unscripted magic in broadcasting, leaving fans clamoring for more such raw, authentic interactions.